Peace, people. Welcome to another episode of the Rough Draft. I am your host, Kevin Alberto Savio, and in this particular episode, in honor of the upcoming Halloween weekend, actually, which is going to be next week, I would like to profile my novel series, The Chronicles of the Black Fist. Now, The Chronicles of the Black Fist is an action adventure novel. I actually published that particular novel back in 2015. So as of this year, 2019, it's actually been out for at least 4 years. As a novel series, is actually two books in right now. I just earlier this year in January released the second book in the series. So the Chronicles of the Black Fist is actually it profiles a costume crime fighter as he represents for his community, for their uplift, and also protects them from both criminals and corrupt cops alike. I actually came up with that character, I'd say around 2012. Because one of the things for me is that at that time, I believe I was either watching a DVD or I was watching something on YouTube, and it was talking something about I think it was the 73rd or 75th anniversary of the creation of the character of Batman. And I remember in that thing that I was watching, they were talking about how influential and iconic this particular character was. I mean, it's been around for almost 80 years at that point. I think in this year, 2019, it does make it 80 years that that the character of Batman has been around. And I remember thinking to myself, me being the activist that I am and being involved in the literary arts and just creativity and culture, I'm like, why can't we have an iconic character like that? You know, saying for people of African descent, who say, why can't we have an iconic character like that in the black community? And so I decided for myself, like, hey, well, if we don't have a character like that, I might as well create something. So I actually started developing the story. When I originally came up with the character of the Black Fist, it was originally supposed to be an animated series. So it was supposed to be a cartoon. What I wanted to do was just to initially start writing the premiere episode, maybe at least the first season of it. So I started writing and developing the characters and the storyline and everything. And I remember when I initially started writing it, one of the problems that I had was just it felt like the more that I developed it, and while I was writing the pilot episode, it just seemed like something wasn't fitting, something wasn't going right. I couldn't get the story to flow the way that I wanted it to. So I thought, well, okay, instead of making it a half-hour episode, maybe for at least even like not just the pilot, but or the premiere episode, but also for the entire season. Maybe instead of making them half-hour episodes, I can make them like 1 hour animated episodes. So I started expanding the script, and the more I continued to write it, especially the first draft, it's just okay. Still not flowing. Something about it's just not. It's not going the way that I want it to. So then I thought, okay, maybe this is just a little bit too much of a condensed form. Maybe what I need to do is to expand it into a feature-length movie. So instead of just writing it for like you're saying 30 minutes or 60 minutes, I can make it like a 2 or 3 hour movie. So the more I kept writing the original story for it, the character itself was too rich. A lot of the stuff I wanted to add to the storyline itself was just really, really expansive. And even trying to write it as a feature-length film, it was not working. The story wasn't able to flow. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe I should make this an actual film series, a franchise. So like a part one, a part two, maybe part three or something like that. Because there's just so much that I could do with this particular character and storyline. I'm just like, maybe that's the issue that I'm having. But then the more I started developing the character and the storyline, I'm just like, oh shit, like this isn't gonna work as a film or as a TV show. This has got to be a book. So I kind of scrapped the original plan that I had as far as like writing it as a screenplay, and then I just started writing it as a novel, and I was very very happy with that. Yeah, so about from 2012, sorry, 2012 to going into very early 2015, I'm just like I'm writing a novel, so it took me damn near 3 years, like 2.5, 3 years, just to write that novel. You see, including the revisions and everything. Because I remember it was around, I'd have to say, close to close to Thanksgiving or something like that, when I actually finished the draft. And I just remember being very elated when I finally finished writing the project, the original rough draft, the first draft of it. And then just like I needed at least a good 2, 3 weeks to just decompress after writing this character. I was just like, holy cow. I was just like so happy that it was done. But after I was just so freaking drained. Like it felt like my mind had exploded or something like that. I'm just like, look, yo, I need time to decompress before I can even start doing any revisions or something like that. So I mean it was great. I mean, the initial character, he's named his actual real name is Nyerere Lewis. Obviously from Julius Nyerere. He was the president of Tanzania when it became an independent country in Africa. And Lewis Latimer. Because this character, I mean, he's not necessarily like Bruce Wayne. He's actually the son of local activists who helped to build a local chapter of an activist organization in their city of New Washington City. Obviously, it was modeled after my own hometown of New York City. I just took a lot of elements from my life and like a lot of different books that I had read, my own activism career from childhood up till till even now. You say continuing the story with the other entries into the fiction series. My time in different organizations, so I took a little bit from their history and how they were organized and things like that. I threw that into the storyline. I have to admit, I did do a little creative borrowing from Jeru the Damager from his song "Can't Stop the Prophet," which is a dope song. If you ever into if you're into hip hop, like that's just like a really cerebral song, just the way it is symbolically and conceptually. I mean, so for the Chronicles of the Black, well, the reason I even got that title was originally from the way it was supposed to be when it was supposed to be an animated series. So obviously you had Batman the animated series. So when I originally came up with the concept for it as an animated series, it was supposed to be the Black Fist the animated Chronicles. So that was kind of my take on like saying obviously that Batman TV show that I actually really liked and I loved it. And I remember watching it as a kid growing up. Saying from high school and whatnot. Uh, and then when I changed it into a novel, I just kept the Chronicles part, and so I just called it The Chronicles of the Black Fist. Um, it was a nice story. Yeah, what I'm saying. I thought the title was good. It was befitting of what the character is about because it actually is his journey, at least in the first book, from saying his past, his parents. Excuse me. His parents were activists. They ended up being murdered by the local police force because they were seen as a threat, pretty much on the word of the powers that be, or you're saying the local community, mostly the business community, aka white people, and so they were a threat to the power structure. His parents needed to be taken out, and at that time he was a child. Literally, he was in the story. He was 6 years old, and so the story picks up 20 years later because after the initial murder of his parents, after an activist meeting that they had, I mean, the city actually it blew up. There was like a big old riot between the residents and the cops, and a whole bunch of other craziness happened, and pretty much all of the accomplishments of the organization that his parents led, which was called Africana Pride, and that's an acronym for People's Revolutionary Institution for Defense and Empowerment. So it's basically Africana Pride, Africana People's Revolutionary Institution for Defense and Empowerment. So that's the long name of the organization. The organization actually kind of ended up falling on hard times because obviously like, his parents were murdered. A lot of the leadership of the organization, they were like arrested, beaten to a pulp. Some of them died. Um, and so a lot of their programs ended up kind of dissolving and shriveling up and just being discontinued. So the city ended up falling on many, many hard times. And in Nyerere's opinion, as a kid for his parents who have actually literally given their life for the uplift of their people to see the community and the organization kind of descend into just like utter darkness. Like he was very resentful. And so when it came to wanting to do things to help the community, he was like, "Nah, fuck y'all." Understandably, because like his parents literally died for saying for their people, and they basically got involved in like gangs and violence and drugs and alcoholism, and basically want to be sitting there with handouts, in his opinion. So he's pretty much at that point, 20 years later, after their murder, kind of at a crossroads in his life. And then a young mentee of his actually ends up getting murdered by some knucklehead from the streets. And so he kind of takes it upon himself because it's like, okay, the local police department, they don't give a shit. They're not going to look out for the community. This murder's probably going to go unsolved and be another cold case that just never gets solved. So he decides to take matters into his own hands. And the thing that I like about this character is the fact that like he's not some millionaire playboy like Bruce Wayne. He's he's an academic. He's an activist. He's actually the trained martial artist. He's trained in different African martial arts, not just fucking capoeira. Because I mean, it's like as large as the continent of Africa is, and as many countries are in there, you'd think we only came up with one goddamn style of fighting. No, I mean, he's very well versed in it. He's done like a lot of research of fighting styles, not just in Africa, but also in the diaspora because of the Mafa. And so he has done all this training, and he's at a point in his life where he's like, do I really want to stay in the city where I have nothing but like misery and pain, or do I want to explore my options and go someplace else where I can feel a hell of a lot better? With the murder of one of his young mentees, a young street kid who he was trying to mentor and like pull out of the streets, even though the kid didn't always listen to him. You know what I'm saying? With his murder, he's like, okay, nah, I can't let this slide and not let anything happen. Like even with the police officer, the detective who's taking over that, well, who was investigating the murder, a detective named Amira Umi. She's actually a main character in this film series, book series, sorry, fiction novel series. And she is in she's very much invested in this. She doesn't like how the streets have devolved herself, so she became a police officer to make a difference. And she's actually at a crossroads, even though she's working very hard to solve this case. Nyerere basically decides to take this into his own hands. Um, Basically puts on like a costume to cover up his identity, and then he goes after the guy who murdered his young mentee. So he goes, he finds the guy, beats the crap out of a lot of his gang members who were there to work for him. You know what I'm saying? All his street soldiers and dealers and whatnot. And after he actually takes that guy down, he actually kills him. Um, some mid-level drug dealer runs the local drug crew in like the southern part of the city. He kind of feels good. He kind of feels like he has a purpose. He kind of feels like, okay, I'm not necessarily letting my parents down with the legacy that they left me. So maybe this is my way to contribute. So he basically becomes a masked crime fighter for the people. And so he becomes the Black Fist after that. I love this story. I've actually, for the few people who've actually read this novel, I've gotten a lot of really great feedback. Um, yeah, earlier this year, I actually wrote a book too in the fiction series of the Chronicles of the Black Fist. The subtitle for it is Fury of the People, and that's an acronym, F-U-R-I, Fury, which means Freedmen's Underground Revolutionary Initiative. It's kind of like an underground for him. He's able to, well, one thing as an activist, he discovers he can't do this all by himself. He needs help. So he creates an underground network of people to help him do it. So he could gain access to intelligence. He could gain access to like different weapons. He could get access to different people to help him, who he calls revolutionary associates, or basically like unofficial partners. Book two is great. I just dropped it in January of this year, January of 2019. Sales for that particular book haven't been the way I want them to, but like I said, it's a great story. Definitely invest in it. when you get an opportunity. Book one was actually published in 2015. I've got so far books three and books four of this fiction series. I haven't finished writing them yet, but they are definitely in the works. So this is definitely a series. This is definitely going to be a hot character. You definitely need to jump onto this. The Chronicles of the Black Fist. It's available online. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it through Barnes and Nobles. You can buy it through Books a Million. It's also available in ebook format. So if you have a Kindle, a Nook, a Kobo reader, an iPad, basically any smartphone or tablet, you'd be able to download it there. Um, Chronicles of the Black Fist, Fury of the People. That's also available in paperback format. You can buy it through Amazon. You can buy it through Barnes and Nobles and Books a Million, their websites, and also book two is also available as an ebook. So again, if you have an iPad, a Kindle, a Nook, a Kobo reader, saying tablet, smartphone, the book is downloadable. You can get it there. So thank you very much. I hope to see you again. Welcome to this episode of the Rough Draft. Definitely, if you're watching this on YouTube, sorry, if you're watching this on YouTube, definitely leave a comment, like, subscribe. So, thank you for supporting me. Thank you for watching this latest episode of the Rough Draft. I'll catch you soon. Peace.